Hello everyone, and in the second episode of Python tutorials, we're going to go even deeper into variables and learn some fun new properties. For starters, I will show you this function called input. Now, the way this works is that you type input with parentheses, similar to print, and then you can type a prompt in it, which should be a string. So, if I were to type hello, then you can see when I run it, then it'll ask me for input and I can put something in here. However, if we just put it like this, then there isn't a real use, since Python will look at it, it'll get the input, but then it's not going to know what to do with it. So instead, we should assign it to a variable. Let's say text as such. Now we can print this variable and get our input back. So we can see it was printed. Then we can put something like, and it will give us a result back. Now, another thing we can do with variables is we can do something called casting. Now, let's say we have a number, okay? So, like num equals 10, right? We can see that the type of this, we can get the type of this variable using type, which is another built-in function in Python. So if we were to get the type of this, then we see that we get int. However, let's say that we got an input and we know it's going to be a number. So what if we instead have something like this? Well, right now it's a string, but we know it's a number. How can we turn it into a number so we can do something like add to it? Since if we try to do that now, it's not going to work, since Python doesn't know how to add a string and a number together. What we can do is we can do something called casting, where we take the function called int and we cast the num as to an int by putting it in this function. There are similar functions for string, bool, which typically just finds if something is empty or not, float, and a few more. On to some of the more complicated natures of strings. With strings, let's say we have some text here. We have some text here. Let's say for some reason we only want the last 5 characters of this string. Well, strings are actually more or less arrays in a sense. For example, we could, if we wanted to, like thinking it was an array, get the first character as such, and we would get that. However, there are some special commands for strings that we can use to slice them. If we, instead of putting a number here, we're going to put a colon and a number on each side. Now, what the number on the left tells us is where the start index is and where the end index is on the right. If we don't specify a start or end index, it'll just go from the start or end of the string. For example, if I wanted, let's say, from character 5, 6, well, technically, since these are 0 indexed, to the end, I would just leave this blank and I would get character 5, 6 to the end. And notice that this is not inclusive. So this does not include character 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's another useful thing that we can do. Say that we got an input of what somebody's name is, like as so. And then we wanted to print it, right? Let's say we wanted to say hello and then their name as to greet them. From what we learned last episode, we could have, since name is a string, we could have hello plus their name to concatenate them plus maybe an exclamation mark at the end. Now we could do this and it would work. Let's say I just put Bob. It would work, but this is a bit clunky and it can get really complicated if what we're trying to add into the string isn't this simple. Instead, there's a really nice feature that Python has called an F string or a formatted string. For that, instead of just all we need to do is add an F at the start of before the first quote. And then we can use the string as normal, except when we put two curly braces like this, then whatever we put in it will be treated like a variable. So if we can put name in here, and it will get back what name is and put it in this place, like so. Now this is really useful when you're trying to print something and you want it to have some information in the middle of the string as well. So you don't have to go through a very complicated process to build up that string. Another thing that strings have is escape characters. Let's say that we wanted our string to have an apostrophe. So well, notice that now it's not going to work since Python thinks this is one string and this is just a random quote out here. What we could do is we could just put this thing in double quotes instead, because then it will work, since it won't look for the double quotes in the middle. But what if we want double quotes? Then we can just use single quotes. However, what if for some reason we want both? Well, in that case, we can use escape characters. For example, we can just put a little bit of a backslash here and a backslash here. Then Python will understand that we're not trying to make a new string when we use those characters, but instead they are escape characters. And we can do the same thing with this. Another useful escape character is \n. For example, if I have a string and then I said if I have a list. Well, if I use the escape character \n, this will create a new line in between them. For example, if I took this and then I printed it, then we would see it creates a new line between them. There are a few more, and you can find these things on the Python wiki, which will be in the description. Another useful thing a lot of that strings have, and a lot of other data types have as well, but strings have more particularly useful ones, is that if we have, let's say, some text, let's say it is well, say we try to print it, right? But we want everything, every single letter to be in uppercase. Well, we have methods. We could go through each character individually and try to capitalize it. However, we have text, and it has a special method called upper, which will capitalize, every single character, as we see here. However, notice the string has some pesky white space on either side. Well, we can use the strip function to get rid of that. And now there is no white space. Thank you for watching this video, and remember to like and subscribe.